Hi everyone, please subscribe my YouTube channel. The yearly Morrison clan cookout was in full swing. The end of summer atmosphere heavy with the aroma of barbecued food and thinly veiled criticism. Our expansive backyard, which my folks took such satisfaction in upkeep, was scattered with family members holding paper dishes and plastic cups, their chuckles drifting over the flawlessly trimmed grass. Oh, there's Sarah. My mom's voice held that well-known note of letdown as I neared with my basic noodle dish offering. Still employed as a receptionist, sweetie, I smoothed my plain cotton dress, purposely selected to be nondescript, and mustered a grin. At 32, I had perfected the skill of seeming precisely as unsuccessful as my kin assumed I was. Office clerk, Mom, at Thompson Enterprises. My sibling Madison glided in, luxury handbag dangling from her wrist, her recent advancement as advertising head practically glowing from her costly hair streaks. Mom, you won't believe what occurred at the office today. The COO personally commended my newest initiative. I suppressed a smirk, recalling the message I had examined just that morning regarding Madison's slideshow. The commendation had really originated from her immediate manager, not the COO Yumi. But naturally she was unaware of that. That's fantastic, darling, Mom glowed, totally overlooking my presence. You've always been so motivated. Unlike. Her gaze shifted to me then elsewhere. The truth is, I wasn't merely an office clerk at Thompson Enterprises. I controlled it. 3 years back, I had acquired the firm via a chain of front companies, meticulously concealing my name. The prior proprietor had been eager to offload, and I had passed years accumulating my wealth through clever funding and calculated purchases. Thompson Enterprises was simply the most recent item in my collection, and I had opted to maintain my control secret. It was simpler that way. No pressures, no kin requesting handouts or positions. Just me silently directing a $500 million business, while my kin persisted in viewing me as their biggest letdown. Aunt Patricia shuffled over, vino spilling in her cup. Sarah dear, have you considered enrolling in some management courses? Perhaps then you could advance from handling calls. I held 2 masters in business and a doctorate in corporate planning, but they were clueless. I'm content where I am, Aunt Patricia. That's your issue. My dad chimed in, sandwich in grip, no drive. Your sibling's already earning 6 digits and you're still shuffling documents. I earned 9 digits last year, Dad. Madison basked in the acclaim. In fact, we're hosting a major firm assembly next week. The boss is at last showing up. Everyone's so thrilled. Yes, I had at last resolved it was moment to emerge from the darkness at Thompson Enterprises. The business had expanded greatly under my guidance, even though I had handled all via stand-ins and online sessions. But shifts were approaching and I required to assume a more visible position. Will you even catch a glimpse of the boss, Sarah? My mom inquired with phony sympathy. I mean, from your small cubicle in the back. Before I could reply, a polished black Tesla rolled into our driveway. My pulse quickened. I knew that vehicle. What was Marcus up to here? He was Madison's immediate overseer and one of the rare individuals who knew my actual status. Madison perked up, fixing her locks. Oh my gosh, that's my superior. What's he doing here? Marcus exited his vehicle, appearing flawless in relaxed weekend attire that likely exceeded my folks' monthly house payment. His gaze swept the group until they landed on me and he grinned widely. Madam CEO, he shouted, striding toward us. I didn't anticipate finding you here today. The wiener slipped from my father's abruptly slack fingers. Madison's complexion lost all hue. My mom's vino tumbler slid from her hold, breaking on the deck with a smash that appeared to reverberate across the abruptly quiet yard. I inhaled deeply, straightened my deliberately basic cotton dress, and grinned. Hi, Marcus. Welcome to my kin's cookout. The quiet that ensued was overwhelming. Years of meticulously upheld pretense collapsed in a moment. I could sense every gaze in the yard locked on me, brains hurrying to digest this disclosure. Madison regained her speech first, though it emerged as more of a squeal. You're the boss, but that's unthinkable. You're just a receptionist. I faced her, keeping my composed grin. In reality, Madison, I'm your superior. I control Thompson Enterprises, have for the past 3 years. My dad's complexion had shifted to a curious shade of violet. What sort of prank is this? Marcus advanced, his attendance adding substance to the disclosure. Oh, it's no prank, sir. Your child is one of the sharpest bosses I've had the honor of collaborating with. Thompson Enterprises has tripled its worth under her direction. My mom clutched the closest seat for balance. But you bring store-bought noodle dish to kin events. You reside in that small flat. You don. You don items from discount stores. I squared my posture, at last allowing a touch of my real self to emerge. I opt to live modestly, Mom. It doesn't imply I must. The murmurs began circulating through the assembled kin like bushfire. Aunt Patricia was hastily searching Thompson Enterprises on her device. Uncle George was gagging on his brew. And Madison appeared like she might collapse. Marcus appeared to grasp he had just exploded a device in the midst of our kin cookout. He cleared his windpipe uneasily. I regret if I've intruded, Madam CEO. I spotted the location on the firm's old files and figured I'd stop by to talk about the Morgan purchase. Before I could answer, Madison exploded, her voice piercing with doubt and rising fury. This is absurd. I've been busting my hump for 3 years ascending the ladder, and you've been covertly observing me, mocking me in secret. I locked eyes with her firmly. No, Madison, I've been directing a business. Your evaluations, advancements, and pay hikes were all founded on performance or absence thereof. I halted pointedly, including the occasions you claimed credit for your group's efforts. She reddened deeply. Everyone in the kin knew Madison had a tendency of appropriating others' successes as her own. She'd been at it since we were kids. You're fabricating, my dad abruptly declared, his tone rough with rejection. Our Sarah, who? She can hardly decide what to put on in the morning. I sensed a known ache at his remarks, but I was finished acting minor. Would you care to view my bank statements, Dad? Or perhaps the business's periodic summaries? I'm certain Aunt Patricia has discovered lots of pieces by now. Indeed, Aunt Patricia was glaring at her device, her complexion paling steadily. Thompson Enterprises, worth at, oh my lord, my mom had at last recovered her speech. But why didn't you inform us? Why act to be lesser? I glanced around at my kin. The folks who had devoted years dismissing me, undermining my selections, handling me like I was somehow flawed because I didn't proclaim my goals. Would you have trusted me? I inquired softly. When I departed Williams and Partners to launch my own funding company, you told all I had been dismissed. When I shifted to a tinier flat to conserve cash for purchases, you labeled me a flop. When I labored late evenings constructing my business, you claimed I couldn't maintain a social circle. Marcus fidgeted awkwardly, plainly grasping he was observing something profoundly intimate. Maybe I should return later. No, remain, I stated resolutely. We may as well air everything now. I faced back to my kin. I kept my achievements hidden because I wanted to thrive on my own conditions without dealing with your pressures or requests. And frankly, seeing how you handled me when you figured I was just a receptionist revealed everything I needed about who you truly are. Madison's spouse Tom, who had been silently viewing the spectacle develop, abruptly spoke. Wait, if you're the CEO, then that implies euros. His speech faded as understanding hit. Yes, I affirmed. I'm the one who denied your request for a personal workspace last month. The business couldn't rationalize a premium space for a middle-tier supervisor. The collected kin erupted into badly hidden chuckles. Madison's complexion turned scarlet. I suppose the Morgan purchase you noted is about the merger. My Uncle George, a corporate attorney, interjected. The kin opportunists were already hovering, spotting potential in their freshly uncovered, prosperous relative. That's private business info, I answered coolly. Just like the increase Madison's been boasting about asking for won't be occurring. You can't do that. Madison objected. That's bias. In fact, I can. Your last 3 initiatives were exceeding funds, your group has the top attrition rate in the business, and your recent initiative suggestion was denied because it was strikingly alike to our rival's initiative from last year. I grinned faintly. I may be your sibling, but I'm also your superior. And unlike our kin interactions, my business operates on achievement, not partiality. My mom slumped into a close seat, waving herself theatrically. All this period, all the remarks we made. Yes, I interrupted. All the occasions you labeled me worthless. All the kin occasions where you placed me at the children's section because I hadn't accomplished enough to join the grown-ups. All the sly remarks about my outfits, my vehicle, my life selections. I squared my discount dress proudly. I recall every single one. The quiet that ensued was laden with understanding and remorse. My dad appeared to have aged a decade in the last 10 minutes. Madison was gazing at her pricey footwear, likely computing how many more installments she had remaining on them with her present pay. Marcus cleared his windpipe. For what it's worth, your child has constructed one of the most admired businesses in the field. Our staff happiness levels are the top in the industry. Our earnings edges are outstanding, and our work environment is analyzed at management colleges. Talking of work, I added, pulling from my basic purse and retrieving a packet. "I have something for you, Dad." His palms shook a bit as he accepted it. Inside was a property title for his cherished yard, the site of so many kin events where I'd been undermined and ignored. "The loan you've been battling with?" I said gently. "Settled. View it as a yield on all the commitments you didn't make in me." Aunt Patricia gagged on her vino. Uncle George let fall his device. Madison appeared like she might really black out this time. "Now, Marcus?" I faced my associate, purposely switching to my boss tone, the one I employed in executive sessions. "About the Morgan purchase. Shall we talk it over supper? I know a superb eatery that isn't controlled by any of my kin." As Marcus and I headed toward his Tesla, departing my stunned kin behind, I caught my mom's weak voice. But what about the cookout?" I glanced back one final time, surveying the dispersed paper dishes, the forsaken side dish, the frozen expressions of my kin. "I think we're finished here. I have a business to direct." I grinned, channeling every bit of achievement I'd concealed for years. "Oh, and Madison, don't delay for the business assembly next week. We'll be revealing some structural shifts." The ride away from my folks' residence was quiet for a few instants before Marcus spoke. "I really regret for releasing that explosion. I had no clue they didn't know." I chuckled, feeling freer than I had in years. "Don't regret. Some disclosures need to occur even if we don't arrange them. Will you be all right?" he inquired, looking at me with worry. I pondered the years of concealing, of minimizing myself, of accepting their casual harshness. I pondered the liberty that arrived with at last being viewed for who I truly was. "You know what?" I said, watching my kin's residence vanish in the mirror. "I've never been greater." The next week, I entered Thompson Enterprises donning an executive outfit instead of my typical modest wear. The rumors trailed me through the corridor, staff doing second glances as they identified the subdued woman they'd hardly observed before. Madison was lingering outside my workspace. Her new badge already showed her move to our minor branch office across the city. Sometimes being boss meant making hard calls. Sometimes it meant making required ones. As I positioned behind my desk, I eyed the kin snapshot I'd kept concealed in my compartment all these years. It depicted a younger me positioned slightly separate from my smiling kin, already mastering to make myself tinier, less noticeable. I removed the snapshot from its holder and dropped it in the destroyer. Then I launched my computer and started my day as I had for the past 3 years. Directing my business, making calls, and at last embracing my reality. The receptionist I'd been faking wouldn't be arriving to the office anymore. The boss I'd always been had a business to direct. And somewhere across the city, my kin was still attempting to digest that their biggest letdown had become their biggest triumph tale. But I didn't require their endorsement anymore. I had ceased awaiting it the day I acquired my first business, even if they were only grasping it now. Achievement, I had discovered, didn't require spectators. It just required assurance. And perhaps, sometimes, a theatrical unveiling at a kin cookout. The weeks after the cookout disclosure were a storm of awkward kin interactions and business tweaks. My phone hummed endlessly with notes from kin I hadn't contacted in ages, each one abruptly recalling our unique connection and having a smart venture idea to share. Aunt Patricia rang about her boy's new venture. Uncle George wanted to examine our business legal agreements. Even my mom's card game pals started appearing at Thompson Enterprises' front desk, asserting to be dear kin associates. I directed protection to reject them all. The most striking shift was in my folks' conduct. My mom began appearing at my workspace with home-cooked meals, attempting to compensate for years of disregard with turkey wraps and remorse-filled regrets. "I just don't comprehend why you sensed you couldn't share with us," she said one day, reorganizing the kin snapshots she'd brought to liven up my workspace. I discarded them as soon as she departed. "Really, Mom. Recall my university commencement, when Madison got a vehicle for achieving honor roll, and I got a sermon about squandering my hours with management classes instead of seeking a partner. She had the decency to appear ashamed. We just desired what was optimal for you." "No," I rectified her. "You desired what appeared optimal to outsiders." My dad adopted a different tactic. He began flooding me with paper clippings about Thompson Enterprises, as if I might have overlooked the updates about my own business. Each clipping came with his scrawled comments in the edges. "My child did this. Sarah's business. That's my girl." The same child he'd labeled worthless just weeks prior. Madison's circumstance proved the toughest. After her move to the branch office, she submitted an official grievance claiming kin bias. Our personnel department, ignorant of her tie to me, performed a complete probe. The outcomes weren't what she anticipated. The probe uncovered numerous cases of her appropriating subordinates' efforts, altering time logs, and utilizing business assets for individual ventures. The proof was condemning enough that instead of dismissing her, I offered her an option: quit with a fair recommendation or encounter a highly visible dismissal. She quit the next day, though not without a last theatrical display in my workspace. "You're destroying my existence," she yelled, eye makeup streaking down her face. "After all I've contributed to this business," I stayed seated, serene. "All you've contributed? You mean like appropriating the Johnson initiative that your aide created? Or maybe you're alluding to the cost logs you've been altering. That's a euros, that's standard work practice." "No, Madison, that's deceit." I pushed a dossier across my desk. "Here's your quit document. I've already endorsed the recommendation that verifies you were employed here and departed willingly. It's more than you merit, but I'm offering it because despite all you're still my sibling." She grabbed the dossier, her palms quivering. "You think you're so superior now, don't you?" The grand boss gazing down on all. "No," I answered softly. "I think I'm someone who at last ceased letting this kin determine my value." After she departed, I got a barrage of furious messages from my folks, requiring I resolve things with Madison. I replied with captures of her deceitful logs and a basic note. "Would you favor I pursue legal action instead?" They halted messaging after that. The business shifts I enacted went well past Madison's exit. I revamped the whole advertising section, advanced several ignored staff, and rolled out a new achievement-founded assessment setup. Thompson Enterprises hadn't thrived through connections, and it wouldn't begin now. 6 months after the cookout disclosure, I joined another kin event, Thanksgiving, at my folks' residence. This time, I showed up in my Tesla, donning attire that mirrored my real position. The change in how I was handled was both entertaining and pitiful. Kin who had once snubbed me now clung to my every remark. Aunt Patricia boasted to her pals about her boss niece. Uncle George prominently showed a paper piece about Thompson Enterprises on the shelf. Madison didn't show. She'd accepted a role at a lesser business, having discovered that her kin title no longer held the influence it once did. I heard via rumors that she was really performing well, at last having to depend on her own abilities rather than kin ties. As we positioned for supper, my mom tapped her tumbler for focus. "I'd like to propose a salute," she declared, her tone shaking a bit, "to Sarah, who demonstrated to us all that achievement doesn't always appear the way we imagine it to." I lifted my tumbler with the others, but included my own silent addition, and to genuineness which counts more than facades. Later that night, as I readied to depart, my dad intercepted me by the entrance. He appeared elder, more unsure than I'd ever witnessed him. "I was mistaken," he said plainly, "about all. About you." I nodded, accepting his remarks but not providing forgiveness. Some injuries take longer to mend than others. The next Monday, I positioned in my workspace, examining periodic summaries and reflecting on how existence had altered. My aide buzzed in, "Your mom's here again, with a meal." I grinned faintly. "Inform her I'm in a session." I had a business to direct after all. As I turned back to my tasks, I glimpsed my image in the glass, assured, influential, powerful, no longer concealing who I was. The covert boss was gone, replaced by a woman who had discovered that the best retribution isn't riches or achievement, but at last, without regret, being yourself. On my desk sat a holder with a fresh snapshot, not of kin, but of my business group at our last fundraising occasion. These were the